Woo! Good morning, rise and shine. You guys were busy this morning, had a lot of chatting going on at the pre-party. There's my girl Angel P. Hey, it's Pat K. True Crime Beat. What's up, girl? Preschool Granny. Karma, are you getting these storms too? I'm afraid old Shonda's going to get flooded out where she is. My goodness, I saw it on the news this morning. Last thing we want is old Shonda getting run off the road by all this flash flooding. I'm glad that Shonda told her boss, it might take me a little while to get in. But in Oklahoma, it's feast or famine. It's either so damn dry that there's cracks in the ground that would swallow my cat, or it rains and rains and rains to the point, people freaking drown. It's horrible. There you go, Shonda. There you go. Shonda said, I got my arm floaties within reach. You're going to need them, girl. You're going to need them. Hey, Diana. How's it going? Nufflin, family by choice. You got that right. Hey, Diva. Woo, what do we got going on? Boy, I tell you what. Andrew Hiltz pissed everybody off yesterday. Damn. But it was a good show to do, just to kind of show that somebody's just not giving a damn about Summer Wells. And I'm going to segue into our topic for today. Somebody didn't give a damn about Emily Pike. It is horrible. It is horrific. I mean, my mind is going everywhere with this case. Cartel, trafficking, you name it, because she was dismembered. They found everything except for her arms. Now we find out she was sexually assaulted before and had an attempted an unaliving. That's why she went to the group home. Well, now her dad wants to sue the group home, and I've been, I'm friends with her mom on Facebook. Her name is Steph Danello, and she is not happy that the dad is doing this. There's a lot going on. When I heard about the essay, which happened several years ago, I'm like, well, duh. Wouldn't this be easy to solve? I mean, she knows who assaulted her. Nothing was done. So was somebody trying to hush her up? Is it somebody from the group home? I don't know. But let's take a minute and tell everybody, Allah, good morning. Glad you're here. You're the best. Yes, indeed. Hold on. I got to drop a link. I got to send it. I thought I already did this. I'm such an idiot. Give me a uno momento. Okay, where's her ass at? Hold on. Okay. Our guest today messaged me at like midnight last night. Good luck getting a hold of me at midnight. And said she was having a really bad migraine. May or may not come on the show. So we will see. We shall see. It is horrible, though. Let me go to your comments from the last show, because y'all had some comments that are actual foreshadowing as to what's going on right now. All right, from the last show we did about Emily Pike, Carrie G said, great show this morning. Thank you, Carrie. As I was going through my Facebook groups, I realized that in all the Globe groups, I have seen nothing about Emily and what happened to her. She's talking about Globe, Arizona. She said it is a segregation line that is drawn between Globe and the res. There is a saying, what happens on the res stays on the res. Even though she was found in Gila County, it's a total different world out there. What a comment. What a comment, considering what we know now. Strawberry Kisses, what's up, girlfriend? Said, in my opinion, all roads lead back to this group home. What is going on there? I agree. I agree. I agree. I plead the fifth, said, something for sure is not right. I would be screaming from the rooftops for my kids. We're going to talk about that. Because someone dropped the ball. Okay, let's start with this that came out a few days ago. The family, okay, never mind the swimsuits. That orange one's really cute, though. Family of Emily Pike says murdered 14-year-old was a SA victim before the murder occurred. Family members of Emily Pike are saying her murder was not the only tragedy she faced. They claim Emily was the victim of a SA on the San Carlos Apache Reservation before her murder ever occurred. Her family now wonders if she would still be alive if the SA was ever solved. Why was this ignored by the tribal police? Why? She knows who did it. Her aunt, Carolyn Pike Bender, said she would still be here today if she was not sent to the group home. Emily's family says the sweet, loving girl they knew from birth faced demons in the last years of her life that they want to bring to light. One of those was a reported SA on the San Carlos Apache Reservation. No charges were ever filed, and her paternal aunts and uncle, they make sure to say it's her dad's side, wonder how things could be different if someone was held responsible. What they're saying is, would she have been sent to a group home if this individual had been charged and did some time, said her uncle, Allred Pike Jr. The family says any investigation now into the alleged SA does not detract from the homicide case, so they still want it solved. She named her abuser. Good morning, Jinbug. She named her abuser. Why was this covered up on that reservation? Why? San Carlos Apache Reservation. Aunts and uncles know about it. Her mom knew about it. Her dad knew about it. Now we get to the group home. Why was she sent there?
As the community searches for answers on what happened to Emily Pike. It's been 2 months since Emily's body was found near Globe, and the Gila County Sheriff's Office says there's still no suspects in the 14-year-old's murder.
Yeah, also tonight, sheriff's officials confirmed to ABC 15 in 2023, Emily reported she was sexually assaulted while living on the San Carlos Apache Reservation. She was just 13 years old at the time. Officers from the Tribal Game and Fish Department investigated, but Emily's relatives say no one was prosecuted. We're asking tribal leaders what happened to the sex crime case. Emily's uncle also wants answers. He says it's about keeping other kids safe as well.
Worst case scenario, this happens again. Same thing happens. Someone gets hurt, getting sent somewheres, and just ending up like my niece did. And that's not something we want anymore.
Is this common? A child is SA'd and is sent to a group home after trying to unalive herself? I didn't gather that this group home was anything more than like behavioral. I never grabbed that it was therapeutic at all. She named her abuser. She named her abuser. Why is that dude not locked up? Okay? What the hell is going on here?
safe as well.
Worst case scenario, this happens again, same thing happens. Someone gets hurt, getting sent somewheres, and just ending up like my niece did, and that's not something we want anybody else to go through.
After the sexual assault allegations, social service workers removed Emily from her home and put her in foster care. But Emily struggled at a group home in Mesa. Police reports show she repeatedly tried to run away, and there was one documented suicide attempt. In January, Emily disappeared again and was later found murdered. ABC 15 will continue to push law enforcement and state leaders for answers.
Okay, good for them. Good for them. I've never heard, this is beyond heartbreaking. I've never heard of a child is essayed, tried to kill herself, and has to go to a group home. Make it make sense. Jinbug said, who or why were the charges dropped? More to the story. Oh, there's got to be, girlfriend. There's got to be. She named her the person that victimized her. This name is not a secret to the family. This name is not a secret to the group home. None of the above. There's got to be something going on. And no, I am not saying that Emily made anything up. All right. Well, her dad is looking to sue. Some people aren't happy about that. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with shaking them up. Sometimes when people have to reach for the pocketbook, they start behaving properly. Now, her mom is not happy about this. Her mom put on Facebook, she don't think it's a good idea. We just put it that way.
It's been almost 3 months since 14-year-old Emily Pike's disappearance from her Mesa group home. Weeks later, the teen found killed nearly 100 miles away. There have still been no arrests, but ABC 15 has learned Emily's dad could soon take legal action.
We want justice. We want to find out exactly what happened to Emily and if it could have been prevented by the group home that was in charge for caring for her.
Phillips Law Group telling ABC 15 they connected with Emily's dad, Jensen, who's currently behind bars, about a possible lawsuit against Sacred Journey, Inc. Well, nothing.
Hold on. Did I hear that right? Hang on. Her dad's in jail, but he's going to sue the group home. Why didn't her mom handle this? This is blowing my damn mind.
For her.
Phillips Law Group telling ABC 15 they connected with Emily's dad, Jensen, who's currently behind bars, about a possible lawsuit against Sacred Journey, Inc. While nothing has been officially filed yet, the law group says they have submitted records requests and are in the beginning stages.
If the group home is found negligent, if they did not do the standard of care that they promised to for Emily, then we can file a lawsuit against their insurance.
We reached out to Sacred Journey leadership Saturday, but have yet to hear back. ABC 15 spoke with the CEO a few weeks ago. She told us they go above and beyond to take care of their children. The Arizona Department of Child Safety has said, at this time, the department does not believe any action taken or not taken by the group home caused the terrible outcome in this case.
Okay, Department of Child Safety. They've already done their investigation, and they said they don't believe that anything in the group home caused the terrible outcome. Kind of a bland way of putting it, because it's beyond terrible. It's beyond terrible. They say they go above and beyond. We'll describe above and beyond, because one of the first articles I read about Emily and the group home was that like 30 kids had gone missing from this group home. So it's not all roses and rainbows around there. So let me ask you guys, do you think it's a good idea that the dad sues?
Case. A licensing inquiry was still open, which is a standard process.
We want to know what went wrong, what went right, and make sure that this doesn't happen to another child, another young person that is in a group home.
As for the investigation into the teen's death, the Gila County Sheriff's Office says they're pursuing leads as they come in, and the investigation hasn't stopped. Details, including the teen's cause of death, are also still under investigation. Meanwhile, loved ones have helped put up more billboards like this one, hoping to garner more tips in Pike's case. As for the lawsuit,
We don't have an exact timeline of when this will happen, but we know it's imminent in the near future.
Josh Cristianto, ABC 15, Arizona.
Woo. Peach State Mama said, what's he in jail for? I don't know. Maybe Jinbug knows. I see nothing wrong with exposing dirt on them. They can say all day and all night, oh, we go above and beyond. But do they? Do they? How come it took a week to reach out to Emily's mother to say, we can't find her? Why? Took even longer for them to tell her dad. And again, I don't understand why she was in the group home in the first place. She needed therapy. She needed love. She needed compassion. She knew who did this to her. It's horrible. All right, we're going to come back to that in a second. All right, this is from Law and Crime. They're calling it a botched SA investigation.
Indigenous girl being sexually assaulted by a relative that supposedly was never prosecuted. What ends up happening? This girl, Emily Pike, vanishes from her Arizona group home, only to later be found dismembered and stuffed into trash bags. I'm going to break down the latest bombshell details of this tragic case, from the allegation of sexual assault to an escape that turned deadly. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, we have an update on a story that we covered a few weeks back. On January 27th, 14-year-old Emily Pike vanished from a Mesa, Arizona group home. And according to a report from Mesa police, the group home manager called police and reported that, quote, Emily left out of her bedroom window and has not returned. The window screen was pushed out from the inside. And the thing about that is it was actually a familiar scene because, according to police, Emily had run away before, only this time she wouldn't come back. According to police reports, Emily had a pattern of running away from Sacred Journey, Inc., the Mesa group home where tribal social services from San Carlos.
Diva said, did he say a family member assaulted her? Sure did. Sure did. It is no secret who assaulted her. The whole family knows. The whole family knows. And she repeatedly tried to run away from this place. And on top of that, she tried to hurt herself. Okay? Blue Bella, hang on. Blue Bella said, I believe the group home is owned by a high-profile person, or the home is paying someone to look the other way. Too many girls missing and nothing being done. I looked into that, and it is funded by a very high-profile person. You hit the nail on the head. Stacy said the group home needs to be looked at. I agree. I agree. Now, what they're saying, hey, hot mess, I missed you. Another thing is that she obviously was not getting the support and therapy that she needed from the group home at all. But since CPS in Arizona, I'm just going to use those initials. Since CPS in Arizona has said that they have nothing to do, the group home has nothing to do with the outcome of this case, which we know the outcome. She was murdered. She was dismembered. Has anybody thought to talk to the family member and get an alibi for, say, weeks prior and weeks after she disappeared? seems that Emily wasn't going to stop talking about what happened to her. Retro Girl said, I wonder how much money Sacred Journey makes off the misfortune of these poor girls. Millions. Millions, my friend.
Emily had a pattern of running away from Sacred Journey, Inc., the Mesa group home where Tribal Social Services from San Carlos Apache Reservation had placed her. And the group home manager, Cathay Montano, told police that Emily had fled multiple times, including to nearby Fitch Park. But officers didn't find any trace of her that night. Emily's last known outfit, this pink and gray shirt, was noted in the file. She also had no cell phone, no means of calling for help. And then on February 19th, the case took a grim turn. Bureau of Indian Affairs agent contacted Mesa police reporting a Jane Doe was found on the Gillett County Reservation who matched Emily's description. And the agent requested contact with homicide detectives. And it turns out hikers had stumbled upon something absolutely horrific. Trash bags with what appeared to be human remains inside. Authorities later confirmed that this dismembered body was in fact Emily. The report states she was positively identified by Gillett County Sheriff's Office as a homicide victim. And by the way, this is not only a horrible, horrible case, but it also further highlights this epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women. And there are a lot of troubling gaps in this investigation too. For one, according to police reports, a social worker disclosed Emily was on medication for, quote, behavioral issues. Didn't provide any further information. Two, an anonymous tip came in claiming.
Okay, this is a lot to unpack. Peach State Mama said, so if Tribal Social Services put her there, is that different than like a CPS? It's their own CPS. It's for that tribe. Now, when the state agency looked into it, they said that this group home, what happened there or didn't happen, has nothing to do with the outcome. I would have to disagree with that, because if she had ran away all these times, if she had tried to harm herself, shouldn't she have been watched a little more closely? Don't you think?
Inside. Authorities later confirmed that this dismembered body was in fact Emily. The report states she was positively identified by Gillett County Sheriff's Office as a homicide victim. And by the way, this is not only a horrible, horrible case, but it also further highlights this epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women. And there are a lot of troubling gaps in this investigation too. For one, according to police reports, a social worker disclosed Emily was on medication for, quote, behavioral issues. Didn't provide any further information. Two, an anonymous tip came in claiming that Emily was with her mother on the reservation, but a tribal case manager confirmed that Emily wasn't there. Three, a statewide missing person bulletin wasn't issued until 4 days after she disappeared. And as investigators dug deeper, there was something else that was particularly troubling and disturbing, something that we're going to get into here today. And that is that apparently Emily had been failed long before her death. At least that's what an argument is being made right now. Emily's story doesn't begin with her disappearance. It apparently now begins with an alleged sexual.
All right. An anonymous tip came in saying that Emily was with her mother. Well, she wasn't with her mother. They didn't even tell her mother for like a week that she was missing. I think I'd be looking at that anonymous tip because somebody called in a lie, or they could just called in a rumor. I don't know, but I'd be looking into that. Because regardless of what they say, nothing's anonymous. Nothing's anonymous. No. Okay, then we have the family member that assaulted her. I kind of thought once that was uncovered, they'd have someone locked up quick. So there's way more to this than meets the eye.
Sexual assault in 2023 when she was just 13 years old. So before we go any further, I want to bring on a couple special guests, people who know this case backwards and forwards. Two gentlemen, Justin Shepard, known online as Justin the Nick of Crime. You can check out his wildly popular YouTube channel, as well as a reporter for the Arizona Republic who has been all over this.
wildly popular YouTube channel. Woo! Woo! Gotta check that out, huh?
This case, Robert Anglin. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time. Robert.
Hold on. Is that Justin from TikTok? That's who it looks like. Who the hell is this? I met him at CrimeCon. Hey, Pat, does that look like Justin from TikTok? Let me look at this shit again. Wildly popular.
Had been failed long before her death. At least that's what an argument is being made right now. Emily's story doesn't begin with her disappearance. It apparently now begins with an alleged sexual assault in 2023 when she was just 13 years old. So before we go any further, I want to bring on a couple special guests, people who know this case backwards and forwards. Two gentlemen, Justin Shepard, known online as Justin Nick of Crime. You can check out his wild.
Okay, Justin Nick of Crime. All right. Anders said, is this the Indigenous girl that was murdered? Yes, it certainly is, Anders. All right, so that's Justin from TikTok. All right.
Wildly popular YouTube channel, as well as a reporter for the Arizona Republic who has been all over this case, Robert Anglin. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time. Robert, I'm going to start with you. Before we get into the allegation of sexual assault, through your reporting, what are the biggest gaps you're seeing, whether it's in announcing Emily was missing, the investigation into her death, maybe ignoring warning signs, generally speaking?
What we found is that the group home was actually operating fairly successfully and following most of the requirements. There weren't holes at the group home. In terms of gaps in the investigation, it's really how Emily was failed for years by virtually everyone who came in contact with her at the tribal level. There just wasn't any oversight, and she was forgotten in the system. Family didn't know what was happening to her. Her friends didn't know what was happening to her. They knew she'd been removed from the house, her own home on the San Carlos Apache Reservation. But that's as much as they knew. And what she was going through was a spiral. The last 18 months of her life were a horror show.
Wow, that's tough to hear. The last 18 months of her life, he said, were a horror show. Pat Case and Brooks, I think it's the same guy. Yeah, that's his ass. Certainly was. Certainly was. Real Rock and Robin said, how the F do you forget about a little girl with so much trauma? God, for sure. They got her all medicated up, put her in the group home. It's like tucking a file in the way back of the filing cabinet. I'll deal with that later. It's horrific. She runs away. No surprise there. Kicks out the screen from the inside. They're like 4 days later, they call like, hey, can't find her. Hey, can't find her. And I'm telling you what, every time in Arizona or Idaho, something horrific happens to a child. Okay, I'll use this for example. Michael Vaughn in Idaho. It is overshadowed by that freak of the week, Lori Vallow Daybell. That's what the media covers. We know she's crazy, crazy, crazy. We get it. We understand. In Arizona, Emily is bumped to the back burner, and she matters too because they're talking about the Charles Vallow. They're talking about that trial and talking again about how damn crazy Lori is. We know. Goodness. Just put that bitch in jail, throw away the key, and never talk to her again. Put her in a cell with Letitia Stout. Put those two crazies together. Throw Shabusiness in there too. That nutcase just attacked another attorney. It's like people want to know about Emily, but all you want to do is talk about Kool-Aid lipstick.
Successfully and following most of the requirements. There weren't holes at the group home. In terms of gaps in the investigation, it's really how Emily was failed for years by virtually everyone who came in contact with her at the tribal level. There just wasn't any oversight, and she was forgotten in the system. Family didn't know what was happening to her. Her friends didn't know what was happening to her. They knew she'd been removed from the house, her own home on the San Carlos Apache Reservation. But that's as much as they knew. And what she was going through was a spiral. The last 18 months of her life were a horror show.
Any idea, Robert, why it took, 4 days for a statewide bulletin? We're wondering what the coordination was between Mesa PD and tribal authorities. What was going on here?
Because she was a runaway, because she had a history of runaway, there isn't a requirement for an Amber Alert to go out. Police, in fact, what we found was that kids from group homes run away all the time.
Okay, here I go, interrupting again. Such a pet peeve of mine, such a pet peeve, that when a child runs away, there's suddenly a troubled teen. Don't waste any resources. They'll come back. Probably went to hook up with a guy. Probably went to hook up with the girl. Having a fit. They don't take it seriously. They are in serious danger. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. She's 14 because she tried to run away before. That makes her in danger. Endangered.
This group home in a 3-year period had 30 kids who had run away. Well, there were 30 reports of runaways. They were 18 kids, of which Emily made up 4 of those instances. And because it happens so frequently, there is no state law that requires a bulletin to go out or a missing persons alert. She was reported missing. Police began investigating, but that's as far as it went.
So look, I think it's pretty fair to say that our content shows how important.
Here I go again. I'm going to get my buns spanked by YouTube because I'm going to say it again. I've said it before. If this was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl runaway who'd been SA'd 18 months earlier, it would have been high alert bulletin. High alert. Cat. Like, how many times is the minimum number of times you have to run away on this? I mean, because on the second try, you're not treated as important anymore. That's what I'm saying. Gotta be kidding me. Again, if she looked like Gabby Petito, they'd be all over it. Oh, she was SA'd. She was SA'd and we know who did it. And they botched the investigation. Something's got to be done. Something's got to be done. Something's got to be done. They're not really screaming from the rooftops now, are they? I'm not liking it. I'm not digging it.
Personal safety is, right? And I think that is especially true when it comes to protecting your online privacy, because you would be shocked at how much of your personal information is out in the database if you ask them to.
I'll piss on that.
50% off of an annual Incogni plan. Robert, has there been any pushback from law enforcement, group home, tribal services regarding your reporting, putting a spotlight on what happened to Emily?
No, the contrary. In fact, the only pushback has come from the tribe itself, and tribal leaders still will not talk about what happened there. Initially, tribal leaders really tried to point a finger of blame at the group home. They called for increased scrutiny. They called for a state investigation into regulations of group homes. But they did all that in a vacuum without explaining what Emily had gone through in the past 18 months.
And it raises a larger question. And Justin, I'm going to bring you in. We talked about this previously because I said this. It highlights this epidemic of missing, murdered Indigenous women And one of the reasons you and I had spoke, you were the one who told me about this case, because it didn't reach the national stage. And that's the question I have. Why do you think this is a story that is not getting the national attention that it deserves?
Well, I don't really know the answer to that. You know, it's one of those things that whenever you see somebody who has maybe a darker complexion and it just is what it is, people scroll by that. You know, social media right now is one of the biggest ways that news spreads. You know, for example, you know, a major event occurs, I post a video, and within an hour, maybe less, depending on the event, you know, it's at hundreds of thousands of views. People tend to just scroll by when it's somebody who is missing or a story about somebody who was brutally murdered, that you need to bring awareness to this if they are a person of color or of a darker complexion. And there's not a good reason as to why that happens. It doesn't matter how many people create those videos, how many people create those stories, they continue to be just scrolled right past. Now, with Emily's story in particular, it's garnered a little bit more steam on social media than a lot of other cases. And I think part of that is because of, number one, the brutality of it, also her age. But when it came to her specifically, it really started blowing up with the indigenous creators more so than your more mainstream creators. And it wasn't until, you know, I started covering it and encouraging other creators to start covering it. You have the family of Gabby Petito talking about it, which obviously brings a little bit more awareness to it, because when they talk, people listen.
What a hero he is. I can do a video and in a couple hours it'll have 100,000, 200,000 views. And I've been begging creators to talk about this. Dude, Junebug was on this before you even got up to have your first coffee that morning. She told me about it and we did a show. Damn. Virtue signal much? Looks like damn stepping Stearns up there.
But it really is a struggle that we as creators are hard pressed to overcome. And I know that even in mainstream media, it's hard to get people's attention when it comes to somebody like that. And I don't know how to really change that narrative.
It's a shame. It's a problem. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. And I wonder, with what we're about to talk about, this.
Hold on. I'll come right back to that. Kimberly Mann, happy birthday to you. She said, I wonder if she was removed from her home because the perpetrator lived there. Bingo, sister. Bingo. That is part of it. That is part of it. The thing is, they know who did this to her. 18 months ago. And it was covered up. Why? Why on earth was it covered up? Dude should be in jail.
Pressed to overcome. And I know that even in mainstream media, it's hard to get people's attention when it comes to somebody like that. And I don't know how to really change that narrative.
It's a shame. It's a problem. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. And I wonder, with what we're about to talk about, this allegation of sexual assault from 2023, if this changes everything. So Robert, or this brings more attention to it. So Robert, talk to us about what we know of this allegation of sexual assault from 2023.
In the summer of 2023, there was a call from a hill behind Emily's house. Her relatives believe she made the call, and authorities found her in the aftermath of a sexual assault without a shirt on. Her relatives say she was battered. She was able to identify her attacker as a relative, someone who lived at her house and had come and gone from her house. But the responding agency was not police. The responding agency was not tribal police. It was Tribal Game and Fish.
Now make that make sense. Tribal Game and Fish? We're investigating the assault of this beautiful little girl? Why? Why? Why did they not call the FBI and say, hey, I'm ill-equipped. We need you to come out here to the San Carlos Apache Reservation and help us out. Game and fish? And she made her own call. She made her own call after being violently assaulted. And then from there, put on medication. That's a good way to get someone to shut the F up, right? Put in a group home. That's a good way to get someone to shut the F up. But the dude that assaulted her is protected. Who is this person really? Why is he so protected within that tribe?
That's not who you would typically expect to respond to a sexual assault 911 call, but that's what happened here. And they became the lead investigating agency. And as you can imagine, the case spiraled downward from there.
Why? Why were they the agency that was overseeing this? Why did tribal police not get involved in this? Is there a jurisdictional issue of some kind?
No, but it's a good question and one we can't get answered.
And this alleged assailant, any idea what transpired, who this was, why they were never charged?
We've identified the suspect, but we're not naming him. And he was arrested, apparently spent a couple of days in jail. When the next tribal agency became involved, that would be the tribal prosecutors. And they made a decision not to charge this person in Emily's sexual assault. We have no records to explain why. Nobody from the tribe will talk about why. And
They won't even answer as to why. I'm looking at some of the comments, I had after the last show, and they said what happens on the res stays on the res type of thing. I thought that was more Las Vegas, but they're like, no, it's very secretive and they're going to take care of it themselves. Well, she was murdered. And on top of that, horribly dismembered and put into trash bags. Her arms are out there somewhere. Some people theorize because she was trying to fight back. And I will say this, Steph can come on the show anytime she wants, but my conversations with her, knowing all this stuff now, she really steered my car in the wrong direction. She made it sound to me like Emily was taken because she didn't have enough food because her commodities didn't come in. We know why now she was put in the group home.
And he was arrested, apparently spent a couple of days in jail. When the next tribal agency became involved, that would be the tribal prosecutors. And they made a decision not to charge this person in Emily's sexual assault. We have no records to explain why. Nobody from the tribe will talk about why. And so they dropped the case against him, released him from custody, and that is where Emily's suicides began, the suicide attempts.
She felt like she had no help. She felt like she had nobody on her side. They put him in the clink for a couple of days. The tribal prosecutor said nothing to see here and dropped it. Man, don't make me send old Jinbug over there. She'll tune him up real quick. I do not know how to pronounce your name, so I'm just going to call you T-A-Y-W. Thank you for being here. Said tribal secrecy is why this kind of stuff keeps happening. My girl Jinbug said, I agree. She should have done something for her daughter, but she lived on the res because they help and provide for them. Now, that is something that Steph made pretty clear to me without making it crystal clear, if you know what I mean. That she is not going to go against the grain because it would cost her her home, her food, her whole way of life.
Before we get into that, Robert, let me just ask you, set the record straight. Is there any evidence based on your reporting, your investigation, that ties this allegation of sexual assault into what happened to Emily, her death?
Not directly. I've interviewed the Gila County Sheriff's Office, and they say they are aware of this sexual assault report. They've reviewed it. They have it. They have looked into the person in that who was charged and released, or who was not charged and released, arrested and released. And they say they don't have a suspect right now. They don't have a person of interest, and there's nothing suggesting yet that he may have been involved in her murder, but they haven't ruled him out.
Justin, what are your thoughts on this after what we just talked about, 5 minutes ago, about perhaps how these cases are treated differently? This is odd. This is weird.
It is odd.
It's beyond odd and weird. It's corrupt AF. I put the link in if anybody wants to grab it and come up. I know you guys have a lot of stuff on your mind, and I would love to hear it. Come on up. I don't bite. My cat does, but I don't.
And the other thing that I notice is, typically speaking, when you have crimes committed against Indigenous girls and Indigenous women, it's usually people coming onto the tribal land who aren't normally there, committing these and then going off the tribal land, the reservation. And because that's how it typically goes, there becomes jurisdictional issues like, should it be tribal police? Should it be the FBI? Should it be local police in the area? And this seems pretty cut and dry. This happened, according to what we know, by a relative of Emily. It happened on tribal land. It was investigated. I use the term police very loosely in this because it was fish and game, which makes no sense to me. And it's just
fish and game around here are worthless. I'm talking a titty on a boar hog. They are worthless. I couldn't imagine if somebody broke into my house and I called and they sent fish and game here. I'd be like, what? What, you think I'm stocking my pool with catfish? That is ridiculous. And what makes old Justin from TikTok an expert on how Indigenous women live? Look at him. I've met the dude. He drinks with his pinky out. He drinks White Claws. Okay? I sat there and I watched him. He drinks damn White Claws.
And the other thing that I notice is, typically speaking, when you have crimes committed against Indigenous girls and Indigenous women, it's usually people coming onto the tribal land who aren't normally there, committing these and then going off the tribal land, the reservation. And because that's how it typically goes, there becomes jurisdictional issues like, should it be tribal police? Should it be the FBI? Should it be local police in the area? And this seems pretty cut and dry. This happened, according to what we know, by a relative of Emily. It happened on tribal land. It was investigated. I use the term police very loosely in this because it was fish and game, which makes no sense to me. And it's just one of the many, many failures that we seem to see when it comes to missing and murdered Indigenous women or crimes against women that happen on reservations. That
White Claw don't know. Ignore White Claw. I'd rather hear from the reporter who's actually done investigation. Okay? Jules said, LOL. He does drink White Claws at CrimeCon. He does, with his pinky out. Remember that? The damn citrus ones. So White Claw thinks he knows everything about Indian women. All right. Hopefully the reporter comes up in a second.
There's never follow through. They're not as important. And I realize that there's partial budget issues. There's a lot of things that go into it, but this seems pretty obvious. You have evidence there. If she made the call herself or was willing to interview, somebody was arrested just to let him go with no reason. It makes no sense to me. And perhaps, and last thing I might say, without maybe jumping to a conclusion here, maybe had the justice system not failed her, maybe she wouldn't have felt that she needed to take her own life or run away or get in the situation that she ended up getting herself into.
And let me just couple that, Justin, with something that you said to me in our last broadcast that I want you to reiterate. In the cases that are actually solved, because a lot of these go unsolved, but in the ones that are actually investigated, there's an arrest, there's a prosecution, is it typically, and again, I'm not making assertions about what happened here to Emily, but is it typically committed by somebody who knows the victim, or is it completely random?
Okay. Before White Claw answers, I'm going to ask all of you. Do you think this is an act of random violence? Or do you think it's somehow connected back to Emily speaking out about the essay and she was tracked down? Stacy, you are awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for the super sticker. Ooh, Brooks needed that. Thank you. That puts a new pep in my step. Thank you. Real Rock and Robin said no, connected. Just Me said no, not random. Walking Dead said thank you. I don't know why. Outdoorsy Life said Justin needs to sit all the way down. Just saying. Yeah, sit on a White Claw.
I can't remember my stats on that. I did have that, but I think that it's typically it's somebody that they know, but typically it's because those people are on that reservation. So even if it's not typically somebody that is within the Native American community, the indigenous community, it's somebody that's coming in who has garnered trust with the people who live on the reservation, and they might be there temporarily for work or what have you, and then do what they need to do there. They commit their assaults and they leave, and there's really no repercussion.
That's the scary part that I was left with. And now, by the way, so the department's director never answered a lot of these questions. And after Arizona Republic reporters reached out to inquire what's going on here, the tribe announced, as we were talking about, on April 14th, that it would conduct its own investigation. A statement from the tribe reads, the tribe is now addressing serious concerns about the handling of assault charges. Emily.
Okay. Now, when I saw this, and I didn't need White Claw to mansplain it to me, it actually, in my opinion, added some insult to injury. The tribe is now addressing serious concerns about the handling of assault charges against Emily made in 2023. Questions have arisen regarding why the alleged assailant was not prosecuted and why the tribe's police and specialized law enforcement officers were excluded from the investigation. Because you had Fish and Game handling it. And when it got above them, which should never have been in their hands, it was dismissed. He had a couple days in the clink eating bologna sandwiches and it was dismissed.
Pike made in 2023. Questions have arisen regarding why the alleged assailant was not prosecuted and why the tribe's police and specialized law enforcement officers were excluded from the investigation. But Robert, you brought something up, that this had a big effect on Emily, right?
It did. And before we even go there, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, the axiom of homicide is that most people know they're killers, but there's a lot of circumstances about where her body was found that takes us back to the reservation. She was found off Highway 60 north of Globe, the two trash bags, which is about, as a crow flies, 20 miles from the reservation and about 100 miles from her group home. The group home owner has talked to me and said she really wanted to get back home. So taking that into consideration, it appears she may have gotten close or may have even gotten back to the reservation, and then she was disposed of off the Highway 60, which is, I've been to the site. It does not appear to be a random site that somebody just drove by and picked it for no reason. The other staggering thing about the body, if dismemberment isn't enough, her arms and hands cannot be found.
Yeah, and we talked about that. These are, and unfortunately, in a lot of cases, we see those are, elements to identify somebody. So you wonder if that, fingerprints, things like that. But Robert, I mean, this is from the reporting. Emily was once a bright.
Arms and hands have not been found. These are dangerous, dangerous people. I have a hard time believing it's just one. Take a minute, get your umbrellas in more ways than one. It's raining here and it's raining in the show. Look at Stacy. Girl, you are too generous. Thank you. Jinbug said, in my opinion, I don't feel it was connected, but that's just my opinion. Yeah. I'm back and forth. I'm just back and forth. I'm thinking to myself, what else could have happened to this girl? The cover up of a violent assault where she called herself. It's not like she went to school and told a friend and they had to coax her into telling, what happened. She called herself. Tanya Rodriguez said it was a brutal message. True Crime Beat said, I think someone didn't want her back on the reservation. Who would that someone be? Now, they're saying it's not connected. I have to go with what they're saying because they have the evidence.
Artistic girl, dreamed of college, but after this alleged assault in 2023, her life took a turn, right? She became different, right, Robert?
She did, drastically different. And even before she got to, she was taken and moved to the group home, removed from her mother's custody. Her father's in prison. They're split. The mother has addiction issues, according to relatives. So they removed her from that home for her safety and put her in a group home in August of the Sacred Journey that you mentioned. Even before she got there, she had a history of self-harm and suicide attempts. She tried to hang herself.
This is too much. Good morning, Jean Ellen. Good morning, baby kisses. Mom's got addiction issues. Dad's in prison, not jail. She'd been trying to harm herself, so she goes to the group home for her own safety. Well, obviously wasn't safe enough.
She was cutting her wrists, and that behavior continued dramatically along with the runaways. From there, she became sullen, withdrawn. She was very quiet, soft-spoken, but she had this defiance about her. So if you told her to do something she didn't want to do, she would cry, she would resist, and that wasn't the way relatives who knew her remembered her.
And Justin, she hated that group home. I mean, based upon the reports, right? She had a difficult time there.
I mean, I don't think anybody really wants to be in a group home, but yeah, she ran away 4 times, what we know of. And we know that particular home, has had 30 runaway events that have been reported. And I mean, again, we don't know what's going on in that home, but at the same time, what kid wants to be there? If you're in a situation that you've been put in a group home, whatever's going on in your life is not good. And especially when you're at a very vulnerable age, it can look even worse.
And Robert, my understanding.
All right, I'm no child psychologist, but this is as plain as the nose on my face. Pat Kay said the R broke her, it seems. Yeah. She went from being happy, carefree, artistic, singing, dancing, all the things she liked, to acting out. God bless her. These are cries for help, is what they are. And every one of them that excuse this and look the other way, if it was up to me, they'd be in jail. Hold on. Retro said White Claw has a lava lamp. God, look at that pocket rocket behind him. Damn it.
It's not good. And especially when you're at a very vulnerable age, it can look even worse.
And Robert, my understanding is Emily's relatives told the Arizona Republic they didn't know about this assault. They thought she might have been removed from the home due to her mother's struggles with addiction, or reported struggles with addiction. There was an effort to adopt her, right? What happened there, Robert?
Yeah, her uncle, her grandmother, her aunts all had no idea that she'd been sexually assaulted. In fact, they only learned about it after her death. The family went up to the site where her body was found They were sitting on the side of the road when a game and fish officer apparently drove up and told her he was the one who investigated the sexual assault and briefed them, ran them through what had happened to her in 2023. They were shocked. But it helped explain what happened during this adoption attempt, which was, and to do that, you have to go back to her first.
All right. So she had family members. This has been a big question that many of you have brought up. Why did no family members step up? Well, they did. So what prevented them from adopting her and getting her out of this situation? I'm going to guess her mom, but we're going to go back through this because this is definitely interesting.
A game and fish officer apparently drove up and told her he was the one who investigated the sexual assault and briefed them, ran them through what had happened to her in 2023. They were shocked. But it helped explain what happened during this adoption attempt, which was, and to do that, you have to go back to her first suicide attempt that we know of at the group home. In November of 2023, she tried to hang herself from a doorknob with a shoelace. A staff worker found her in a closet. Her wrists were cut again, and they called police. She was hospitalized. And 3 weeks after that, her aunts wanted to adopt her. They knew she was in this home. They had no idea what she was going through. But they went to adopt her, and part of that was taking her to see other relatives. This is a very large extended family. They were going to take her to Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado for a Thanksgiving holiday, and she was going to meet different relatives, and they were going to show her the house where she might end up living in near Fort Collins, Colorado. And everything seemed to be going well, except that they had taken her shopping, and she wanted to buy makeup. And Emily really loved makeup. And when they told her no, she bolted and ran out into a storm, a Rocky Mountain storm, 18-degree weather. Nobody could find her. They thought the worst. And finally, they located her and called police. There was a search. They found her inside some kind of trampoline arena, and she didn't want to go to the car. And on the way to the car, so they basically forced her. They lifted her up, told her she had to walk to the car. As they were walking to the car, she reached for a police officer's gun and said she wanted to die, that her whole family would go to hell, and she would see them there. And that stopped the adoption in its tracks. And the aunt who was
Okay. Let's absorb this. Let's absorb this. She wanted to buy some makeup. She was told no. Okay. Police get involved. She tries to grab a police officer's gun. Says she's going to harm herself, the whole family. That's when she should have been put into a specialized hospital, not a group home. I'm talking a hospital. She needs therapy, along with whatever medication. She is clearly miserable. Okay? Now, you know me, I would have bought her the makeup, but there's nothing wrong with teaching kids boundaries and just saying no.
After that, her aunts wanted to adopt her. They knew she was in this home. They had no idea what she was going through. But they went to adopt her, and part of that was taking her to see other relatives. This is a very large extended family. They were going to take her to Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado for a Thanksgiving holiday, and she was going to meet different relatives, and they were going to show her the house where she might end up living in near Fort Collins, Colorado. And everything seemed to be going well, except that they had taken her shopping, and she wanted to buy makeup. And Emily really loved makeup. And when they told her no, she bolted and ran out into a storm, a Rocky Mountain storm, 18-degree weather. Nobody could find her. They thought the worst. And finally, they located her and called police. There was a search. They found her inside some kind of trampoline arena, and she didn't want to go to the car. And on the way to the car, so they basically forced her. They lifted her up, told her she had to walk to the car. As they were walking to the car, she reached for a police officer's gun and said she wanted to die, that her whole family would go to hell, and she would see them there. And that stopped the adoption in its tracks. And the aunt who was involved in all of this was just devastated. She had no idea. Emily was hospitalized in Colorado, and the owner of the Arizona group home is actually who came to get her, because the family couldn't get a hold of anybody with tribal social services at the time.
And she went back to that.
Okay. Again, the group home had no business being in the middle of that. They couldn't get a hold of anybody with tribal social services to come get her. Her mom wasn't going to get off her dead ass to come get her. No, you're not going to bother her. All right, so we have this domino effect. So what are the odds that her murder is not connected to any of this other stuff? Again, I'm back and forth. I'm back and forth. I'm back and forth like a ping pong match. I'm back and forth. What are the odds that with the tribal authorities ignoring the SA, she goes to the group home. She's got the shoelaces, okay? Trying to hurt herself. She's going to be adopted by, family members in Colorado. This thing happens at the trampoline park after the makeup. Tribal social services not touching it. They send the people from the group home. Go get her, bring her back. And now here we are now. What would the odds be that they are not connected? I don't know. Something's not adding up.
She went back to that group home, Justin, and my understanding is on January 27th is when she apparently climbed out of that bedroom window that last time, and the reporting indicates that she was trying to see her mother, right? I mean, what do we know about her relationship with her mother and maybe the need to see her mother? This is again before, 3 weeks later, her remains were found in trash bags.
Well, it seems, based on what we know, that her mother was a bit troubled, possible substance addiction. But, you're talking about a 13, 14-year-old girl, and she's going to love her mom. That's going to be her rock. That's the person that's always been there. So even if she's a troubled person, I know I'm making a lot of assumptions here. Even if she's a troubled person, that's going to be the person that she still expects to see. That's going to be that constant, even if she's not the healthiest person for them. It's struggling for me to not really have the information like why she would want to go back there, because we know that this alleged assault took place by a relative that could have been in that home at one point. Is she going back while that person's there or not? There's a lot of what ifs or unknowns, but to me it just seems like this is a scared little girl going back to the one person who's always been there no matter what, even if it's not been in the best capacity.
Justin, you talk about what the response has been. I want to talk about this with you. So the aftermath basically saw Emily's face become a powerful symbol. There are the red handprint protests, the mural covering a water tower. What are you seeing from?
Brett said, how the F would he know? He don't fucking know. He don't know. He's doing like a Jennifer Coffindapper. He's just going along with what the reporter's saying, the one that's actually done the deep dive. Okay. Jinbug said she wanted to go back because no matter what, it's still her mother and her family. Exactly. Exactly. And hey, maybe if they had gotten her mother some help, whoever they is, things would be different. Her dad's in prison. Her mom's got some other issues. I don't want to go too much into that. I'm not saying she's a bad person, not saying she's a bad mom. Pat K said, how did the mother not know of the assault? Oh, her mom knew. Her mom knows. Oh, for sure. She knows the dude. Oh, yeah.
For me to not really have the information, like why she would want to go back there, because we know that this alleged assault took place by a relative that could have been in that home at one point. Is she going back while that person's there or not? There's a lot of, what ifs or unknowns. But to me, it just seems like this is a scared little girl going back to the one person who's always been there no matter what, even if it's not been in the best capacity.
Justin, you talk about what the response has been. I want to talk about this with you. So the aftermath basically saw Emily's face become a powerful symbol. There are the red handprint protests, the mural covering a water tower. What are you seeing from the response online? Have there been any campaigns online on social media? I know the tribe is pushing for Emily's Law to strengthen oversight of group homes. And there's this, and for an Indigenous missing persons alert system. What is the response you're seeing from the public and online?
Well, so online, there really hasn't been much lately because there's been no developments in the case. The biggest challenge is that to keep people interested, you have to continue to give them developments. That's why some of these cases are able to go on as long as they can. Now, with this article that was just written, we can do an update with that and get people back in. But I have had a lot of people come up saying, you should cover Emily Pike. And I'm like, well, I have been covering Emily Pike. Here's all the videos. This is where you can go see them. But I appreciate you having interest in this. So it seems to me that more people are realizing that there are some racial disparities when it comes to the way that.
Okay, White Claw shouldn't be race baiting, okay? This is where things become a huge problem, is when they want to cause a division, okay? I can't stand the race baiting. I can't stand the division. Enough, enough, enough. But I will say it. I've said it before. I'll say it again. This would have been handled totally different if she was not, I'm going to say, Native American. Now, my neighbor behind me hates that term. He's like, I'm an Indian. I'm an Indian. I'm like, okay. Either way, I just call him by his name. There's really no reason to label anybody. Again, if she was, a little white girl cheerleader, shit would have been burning up real quick. And that's not to make anybody feel bad, be put in the corner. It's just the damn truth. And that goes with how the tribe handled it, how the FBI is handling it, all the way up to the governor's office. How the media is handling it. Hell, they all had turtle heads and hard-ons talking about Lori Vallow for the last month. And just, Emily, well, if there's breaking news, we'll cover it. Okay. You're the media. You can find breaking news.
As long as they can. Now, with this article that was just written, we can do an update with that and get people back in. But I have had a lot of people come up saying, you should cover Emily Pike. And I'm like, well, I have been covering Emily Pike. Here's all the videos. This is where you can go see them. But I appreciate you having interest in this. So it seems to me that more people are realizing that there are some racial disparities when it comes to the way that people who are of darker complexion, people of color, Indigenous people are covered and are becoming more attuned to that and wanting to see more of that. It's just a matter of getting it to an even larger scale. So that's kind of where it's at now. I do think that with the article that you wrote, that we're able to take that and talk about it and do that maybe in a couple different parts, and maybe we can get some more momentum, because I agree, things need to change. One of the biggest problems, going back to what we were talking about earlier, when you talk about the legalities of this, maybe not necessarily in the sexual assault of Emily in this particular case, where we see the system fail her and it not really getting the attention and investigation that it deserves. But when you talk about the people that come onto tribal land and leave tribal land, there is a big gap, a giant hole on the way that this can be investigated, which is where pieces of it get lost along the way. And that's something that I think that we really need to start bringing a lot of attention to, because that's a huge disconnect.
And it's a great point. It's 100% true. And let me end on this. I'll go back to Robert on this. So the San Carlos Apache tribe has offered a $75,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest of Emily's killer or killers. Tribal leaders, they've promised.
Peach State Mama said, do you think that has anything to do with the fact that it's handled by tribal police and not regular police, and that they are more secretive in keeping everything within the tribe? Sounds probable to me. I mean, this dude that assaulted her seems to have a buddy somewhere that had no problem saying, we're going to let this go. And they shouldn't have. She shouldn't have been in the group home. Medication, I agree with. But I couldn't imagine anything worse than you yourself are screaming out for help after being violated, violently assaulted, and ignored.
Attention to, because that's a huge disconnect.
And it's a great point. It's 100% true. And let me end on this. I'll go back to Robert on this. So the San Carlos Apache tribe has offered a $75,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest of Emily's killer or killers. Tribal leaders, they've promised this independent investigation. Emily's uncle, Allred Pike Jr., told the Republic that he was skeptical, saying everyone let that girl down. The system failed her in all aspects, not one, not two, all of it. She's just a 14-year-old that maybe wanted to see some friends, wanted to come home. And anybody with information is urged to contact the Gillett County Sheriff's Office or San Carlos Apache Police. Where do we currently sit with the investigation, Robert? And do you have any hope in the investigation?
Well, I think there's a task force involving Gila County Sheriff's Office, the FBI, tribal police, and Mesa Police, and those officers seem committed to finding out what happened. The status of the investigation, what they're focusing on right now, they say, is trying to determine who put Emily's body on the side of Highway 60. If they can do that, they can determine where she was killed, who put her there, and then, of course, that drives back to who did it. And there seems to be, those officers are working day and night to figure it out. As for her desire to get back home, I did want to add that by all accounts, it wasn't just that she needed to see her mom. She believed that she could take care of her mom. She believed that her mom needed her care, that she was worried about her care. And so you have this 14-year-old telling everybody she has to get back home to make sure her mom's okay.
Yeah, let me just say, Emily seemed like such a special girl who was put in such unfortunate circumstances, and it is just a tragedy on so many different levels. And hopefully we get some answers as to what happened to her, because the public and the family needs to know what happened to her. Robert Anglin, great reporting. Thank you so much for coming on. Justin Shepard, really, really appreciate it. And thank you for bringing awareness.
Well, the reporter did a good job. White Claw doesn't know what he's talking about. Kimberly Mann said abused kids still love their mamas. They do. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say that Steph was abusing her. But she just seemed to have some other priorities. For real. She did. I'm going to go back to what the former roommate of Emily's said. Because knowing what we know now, it actually makes more sense.
Now to a True Crime Arizona exclusive. We have new insight tonight on what happened inside a group home in Mesa where a 14-year-old girl went missing at the end of January.
Her dismembered remains discovered on a rural forest road 100 miles away. Her former roommate now sharing what happened before her disappearance and why she may have left in the first place. True Crime correspondent Brianna Whitney's been on the case from the start. What did you find out?
We learn a lot more about what was kind of going through Emily's head before she left that night, but this is just a horrific case to keep reporting on. Important details, though, nonetheless. This really fills in several missing pieces about what 14-year-old Emily Pike's life was like in the group home and why she ran away in late January. We have learned Emily is not the first or only teen to have run away from that group home.
The tragic story of Emily Pike, seen by millions.
I wanted to say that I miss you so much.
After the 14-year-old's dismembered body was found in eastern Arizona on Valentine's Day. Her remains stuffed into trash bags. But the story hits hardest for those who lived with Emily in the Mesa group home, like her roommate, who we're calling Chelsea to protect her identity.
My relationship with Emily was just like trying to steer her in the right direction because it's hard being in the group home.
Chelsea says she lived at the group home near Mesa Drive in McKellips for 4 years and that Emily lived there 2 different times. Emily was from the San Carlos Apache Reservation, and Chelsea says she struggled with mental health and there were better resources in the valley. While Chelsea recently moved out, she's in contact with many of the girls still living there.
Okay, when I first heard this, I certainly wasn't doubting, any sort of mental health issues. I wasn't doubting that at all. I was wondering what the hell put her there in the first place? What put her there in the first place? And well, now we know. Now we know. Well, I mean, what else could have happened to this beautiful girl?
She says Emily left the home in late January because she wanted to visit a boy she met while taking guitar lessons. Chelsea says at the time Emily left, a church group was conducting activities at the group home.
What it looked like was that the church was there and that served as a distraction of when Emily left. She left because she wanted to go out and see the boy that she liked and she wanted to talk to him. She either used the back door, she used the window, and she left as everyone was distracted.
Chelsea says Emily had run away before. Police tell us the group home manager reported Emily missing.
My time being there, I've seen many kids run away from this group home.
According to Mesa Police, this group home alone reported 30 children as missing over the past 3 years. Retired Phoenix Police Missing Persons Detective Stuart Summershoe says this is common, but these cases quickly become high risk.
A lot of our human trafficking and sex trafficking originate from group home kids because they are the most vulnerable victims out there.
Based on where Emily's remains were found off Highway 60 heading northeast, Chelsea believes she was just trying to go home.
I feel like she just ran away and she was trying to hitchhike back to her reservation to see her parents, and she just got picked up by the wrong person.
Now, the Gila County Sheriff's Office is the lead on this investigation. I asked them for an update today on the case. They did not respond. There is a vigil planned in Emily's honor for.
And the vigil was beautiful, beautiful, horrible. Failure after failure after failure after failure, secret upon secret upon secret upon secret, lie upon lie upon lie. So the girl from the group home, they call her Chelsea. We don't need to know her real name. Don't want to know her real name. Thinks maybe she was hitchhiking back to the reservation. She knows a little more than she's putting on the news, and that's good. She doesn't need to put it on the news. And that she was possibly just picked up by the wrong person. Again, I go back to, whoa, what are the odds that all of these things had happened? And then she runs away one night, actually gets away, and is murdered and dismembered, and they don't have a suspect. And now her daddy is going to sue the group home. Okay. Shake them up. That's what I say. Shake them up. It's, not going to do Emily any good because she's in heaven right now. She doesn't need a lawsuit in heaven. But it's going to get answers and hopefully bring some justice for her and maybe raise some awareness as to when a child says, this happened to me, You don't just turn the other way. You keep those people locked up. Violent offenders do not need to be in society. They do not. Well, you guys, this has been a great show. That's all I got for you today, but I will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. If you have any ideas about what you want to talk about tomorrow, you always know where to find me. Let me know. Hit me up in Discord, one of the Facebook groups. Hell, everybody has got my phone number. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your very rainy Tuesday, like what we're having here. You guys are the best. I cannot believe how wonderful you are. Nufflin member for 23 months, family by choice. Jinbug, huge supporter of the channel. Stacy, thank you for the super sticker and gifting those Crime Lines and Lies memberships. I'll see you back here tomorrow, my friends. You are the absolute best. You just keep being you, and I'll see you tomorrow.